evening. Good evening. I am Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, and I am so excited to be here tonight. I stand here today proudly as the first Puerto Rican woman ever elected to Congress. And so, look at the women around us. Tish James is New York's first female and first Black Attorney General. Andrea Stewart-Cousins is the first Black and first woman Senate Majority Leader in New York history. And Adrienne Adams, the first Black Speaker of the New York City Council. We are so honored to be joined by two of the most prolific women in the history of American public service, Secretary Hillary Clinton. The first woman ever to be nominated by a major political party for President of the United States. And we'll be joined by our Vice President Kamala Harris, the first female and first woman of color to be elected to the House. But let's cut to the chase. We're here tonight because we need New Yorkers to resoundingly vote for the first woman to govern our great state on November 8th, Kathy Hochul. The most important issues facing New York: expanding opportunity for working families, housing, public safety, health care, environmental justice are all women's issues, and make no mistake about it, they are all on the ballot. And when the Republicans overturned Roe v. Wade, what did we do? We showed up. We march in the streets, we organize, and yes, we vote, and we will. The Republicans and Lee Zeldin will not make the economy better for New Yorkers. They are supporting the big corporations and ultra-wealthy who are profiting from raising prices, gouging the prices for regular people, and lying to us to enrich themselves. All while Kathy Hochul has invested in our state at historic levels and will continue fighting these big corporations, big pharma, big oil, and so many more. But that is not all. Republicans are making health care more expensive by voting against common sense drug prices reforms. They are attacking our democracy and our right to make our own health care choices, whether it's abortion or transgender rights. They say they want to fight crime, but they vote against keeping guns off our streets and out of our schools. Don't let them fool you. Don't let them fool you. Believe them when they show you who they are. The first time, believe them. For 50 years, they said that they will ban abortion, and here we are. Here we are, and whenever there is an opportunity to fight for any legislation, whether it is the Gun Safety Act, whether it is the infrastructure bill to create good-paying jobs, when bridges and roads need to be replaced or repaved, what do? They vote against it. Only one Republican voted to make the infrastructure bill a bipartisan bill. Shame on them. Governor Hochul and the Democrats have plans to bring us forward to a more equal and prosperous New York. When Congress allocates billions in funding to the states, it is up to the governor to help decide where that money goes. Democrats have proven their priorities are with hard-working New Yorkers. We have prioritized making child care more affordable, increased support for teachers and healthcare workers, assistance for homeowners, small businesses, and yes, deliveristas. All those who were, during the pandemic, out in the cold, delivering your food, your meals, they too deserve the service that we provided. And we are just getting started, and there is so much more to do, and that is why it's so important to make a voting plan. Vote early, vote by mail, or in person on election day, and make your voice heard. Let's show the entire country that New York is a model of progress. And I hope that you all not only come out to vote, when you go home, call each one of you, your 5 friends, your 10 friends. We are all in this together. This is about defending and protecting our democracy. Too many things are at stake. So please, come out and vote. God bless you.
Please welcome to the stage State Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins.
Are we ready to make some history? We are in the amazing Barnard College. Let's make some noise. And I have the privilege of following my good friend, the first Puerto Rican woman elected to Congress, Lydia Velázquez. You're going to hear from Adrienne Adams, the first African-American woman leader of the City Council in New York. You're going to hear from Tish James. We all know that Hillary Clinton, Secretary Clinton, is going to be in the House. We know our Vice President, another history maker, Kamala Harris, in the House. I get to hang out with our own U.S. Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, first New York. I see my brother, another history maker, first African-American Speaker of the Assembly, Carl Hastie. And I get to be the first woman majority leader, the first woman leader in the history of New York State in the Senate. So why does that matter? You know why? Because where we came from matters. How we got here matters. The shoulders that we stand on matter. And the realization that we stand on shoulders that have worked so hard to get us to this place cannot be taken for granted. Now, before I got in that room, and there used to be 3 men only in the room, the Speaker, the Governor, and the Majority Leader, until 2019, every single position was occupied by a man. That's it. And we like you guys, you know, but that was it. There was no path forward. The Speaker broke the code in the Assembly because he became, of the three men, the first black man in the room. But you know, women are holding up 50% of the world, at least, plus some. And so I had to break the code. And so now I'm in the room. The governor right now is a code breaker. She's somebody who, because of circumstances, is in the room. She's not only in the room, she's in the room doing what you and you and you want her to do. That's what she's doing. She is holding up our rights. She is making sure we're taking care of everything from the environment to child care, to health care, to unemployment, to building our economy, to reproductive health. She's making sure that we're dealing with the crime issue and we understand it's not just give everybody guns and lock everybody up. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. I don't want to be in the room with somebody who does not want me to have the right to vote. I don't want to be in the room. I don't want to be in the room with somebody who does not want me to have my own reproductive health care choices. I don't want to be in the room with somebody who thinks climate change is a myth. I don't want to be in a room who doesn't think that people should be treated equally and with justice and fairness in this society. I don't want to be in the room with that person. I don't want to be in a room that does not want to invest in our young people. I don't. So I need you to do me a favor. I've got assembly people there, I've got senators there, I've got a borough president, all of these great history makers, all of these people were working. Sorry, city council, I keep giving you the borough, Gail. And we have all of you. And I'm going to tell you something that's going to make you nervous, but I want you to think about it. Before I got to be a history maker, code breaker, I ran for the Senate. And the first time I ran, I lost by 18 votes. We can't let that happen. Everybody can touch somebody. Do not take anything we've done for granted. Do not take our progress for granted. Do not be assured that we will continue breaking codes and making the world better without you. We won't. We can't. But if you'll do me the favor of making sure that Governor Kathy Hochul is elected, I promise the people in the room, my speaker friend, myself, and the governor will continue to make New York what you need it to be, a reflection of your values, a reflection of your potential, a reflection of you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Please welcome to the stage Speaker of the City Council, Adrienne Adams.
powerful this afternoon. You all know something. We are in the home stretch of this critical election for our city, our state, and the stakes of this moment in history could not be greater. You just watched a great woman walk out of this room. She is a first. You watched a great woman walk out of the room before her. She is a first. And standing before you is the first Black speaker of the first women-led majority of the New York City Council. What? Oh, this is what happens when women lead. When women lead. I can tell you that women being in leadership has never, ever been more important than it is right now. Our leadership is making a real difference as we pass laws and set priorities differently. I'm so proud to join you here in this historic institution, joining so many other powerful women leaders from our city and state today. I thank Hannah Bloomquist and Catherine Sawatsky of the Columbia Democrats for hosting us today. We also have to take stock of this historic moment where the number of women in leadership in New York is unprecedented. Our Congressmember Nydia Velasquez. And once again, let's give it up again for the first woman Senate Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins. We have waiting in the wings right now my mentor, you all. You know who she is. She is the first woman of color Attorney General, Tish James. What? And we are all here tonight in support of the top official of our state, Governor Kathy Hochul. She is the first woman to ever lead our state, and we need her leadership to continue, and that's what's brought us to this powerful, united force this evening. I know we're excited also to welcome our special guests, our Hillary Clinton as the first woman Democratic nominee. First woman Democratic nominee for President of the United States. And we will also welcome my sorority sister, the first woman African-American. I didn't get her name out. You know who she is? You know who she is? She is the Vice President. Her name is Kamala Harris. New York has continued to face many challenges coming out of this pandemic, and we need a governor in Albany who works constructively with our city, local elected officials, and communities. I would be remiss if I didn't shout out my council members in the room tonight, my majority whip. She is the first Black majority whip of the New York City Council. Her name is Sylvina Brooks Powers. And our councilwoman, former Manhattan Borough President, she is the sage of the City Council. She is Gail Brewer. Ooh, we got some woman power up in this place tonight. I gotta calm down. Governor Kathy Hochul, in her short period as governor of our state, has made a real difference by ensuring the state invests the necessary resources to move our city and our state forward. Governor Hochul has focused on combating gun violence and improving public safety in our communities. She has expanded child care at a historic level. She has invested in the housing we desperately need. She, during a pandemic, Governor Hochul has confronted the mental health crisis we continue to face and expanded access to our health care. And most important, Governor Kathy Hochul has prioritized the kitchen table economic issues that help New Yorkers across this city and state. We need Governor Kathy Hochul's leadership to continue so we can move our community and city forward. We cannot afford, under any circumstance, to go back to a Republican governor who ignores our communities, who wants to put us back in the basement, back where nobody sees us, back where our voices are not heard, back and thinking that we are back somewhere where we never wanted to be in the first place. So I say to you tonight, forward ever and backward never. Governor Kathy Hochul has not only proven her leadership with action as governor when we need it most, standing up for public safety, abortion, and women's rights in the wake of awful Supreme Court mandates, but she has a plan for our state that makes sense, and we must continue working together to achieve. As a leader of New York City's legislature, we've worked closely together to address the most important challenges in our city, and Governor Hochul has supported our needs. Kathy Hochul is the only candidate for governor that we can rely on to prioritize New York City and its diverse communities, and we need to vote to elect her for governor in this election. She has safeguarded our rights. She has strengthened New York. She has helped create jobs and invest in clean energy. The choice is clear. The stakes are high. We don't want to look back with regret after Election Day, when we can instead be proud of the role each of us played to move our state forward by doing our part. Kathy Hochul, the first woman governor, and need I tell you that it is women who create the nation. It is women who move the nation. It is women who succeed in the nation. It is women who walk step in front of the other in front of the nation. So when our leader tells you that there were always men making the decisions, guess what? The women have arrived, and we ain't going nowhere. So believe it. I want you to get as excited as I am. We need Kathy Hochul, the first woman governor, to continue to show the world this is what it looks like when women lead.
Please welcome to the stage U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. We love you, too. Right back at you. Now, I am really proud to be here today, standing with a group of extraordinary women. Now, normally, my friends, when I'm surrounded by this many smart, strong women, it's called home. My wife and my two girls know how to inspire me, to challenge me, and how to keep me in line. So I'm used to it, boy. Now, but I'm so honored today to be with Secretary Clinton. She was my colleague for many years in the U.S. Senate. Her grace and grit in the most difficult of circumstances, her constant dignity and poise inspire all of us every day. Attorney General Tish James came up through, guess where? My home borough, Brooklyn, New York. Adrienne Adams, our great speaker, and somebody I always aspired to be. Andrea Stewart-Cousins, right there. You know why I aspired to be her? She was majority leader, and now I am, and we're gonna keep it that way. And of course, I'm so honored to be with our great Vice President, a beacon to so many young women across the country and state, passionate on the issues, effective in getting things done. She was instrumental in getting my effort with Elizabeth Warren and others to cancel up to $20,000 of student debt. And we got it over the finish line. Getting student debt cancellation done is one of the things I'm proudest of in my career. So let's hear it for Kamala Harris and the movement organizers and young people like those who made cancel student debt happen. But last and most important, I want to tell you about the woman who will be on stage next, or soon, not next. Our great governor, Kathy Hochul. I know Kathy well. She's hardworking, she's collaborative, as excellent a public servant as this state has ever seen. You know, some politicians, including male politicians, have a little taste for the spotlight. I know something about this. I'm famous for being very shy. One of the things I admire most about Kathy is she puts her head down and works. She worries about results, not headlines. She is a collaborator, a bridge builder, a partner. The bottom line, Kathy Hochul gets things done. So we have a clear mission today, to elect Kathy Hochul governor and to help Democrats up and down the ballot. Now, there are a lot of reasons, but let's start with the fundamental assault that Republicans are making on our sacred rights. Republicans are waging a war on women. A few months ago, tens of millions of women saw their fundamental right to choose taken away before their very eyes. My children will have fewer rights than my parents if this keeps up. Right now, we need judges who will protect our rights, not carve them away. We can't let MAGA Republicans like Leonard Leo and the Federalist Society pack our courts with judges who will take us backwards, not forwards. Because of every single person who has spent years organizing, rallying, and getting people to the polls, we're now making great progress in the U.S. Senate. At a time when women's rights are under attack, I am proud that the Senate confirmed more than 80 highly qualified progressive judges to lifetime appointments to the federal bench, including Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first black woman to sit on the bench. Three-quarters, I'm happy to say, under my leadership, three-quarters of the president's judicial nominees have been women. Two-thirds people of color. We're making the bench look like America. And they're from diverse professional backgrounds, not just prosecutors or people in fancy law firms, but public defenders, voting rights attorneys, immigration lawyers. And make no mistake, getting judges like this to the bench has never been more important than it's been today. It's critical. We defend the right to choose. Close to home right here in New York. Kathy Hochul, as you know, has been a tireless partner in this effort. She signed national leading legislation to protect the right to choose and make sure women's health care is defended in New York. For the young women in states across the nation who have had the cruelty of MAGA abortion bans imposed upon them, who wake up day in and day out, knowing that basic freedom over their body has been taken away from them, New York, under Kathy's leadership, remains a bastion of the right to choose. But folks, you can't take this for granted. Oh no. Governor Hochul's opponent, Lee Zeldin, has proposed an extreme anti-abortion, anti-woman agenda for the state. Think about it. Let's think about it. A guy who is out and out against abortion could be governor of New York unless we act. We cannot let that happen. And it's not just abortion where Republicans are working against New Yorkers and New York values. You know, when the pandemic was at its height, New Yorkers were suffering. Tens of thousands laid off. The city pushed to the brink. I worked with Kathy Hochul to deliver unprecedented federal funding in the American Rescue Plan and the bipartisan infrastructure law. $350 billion in state and local aid. Billions directly to New York City, saving so many from being laid off, losing their homes, losing their jobs. Kathy Hochul fought tooth and nail for this funding. She made sure the money flowed so that teachers and nurses and subway workers could keep working. We worked together to get billions in funding for tenants to keep New Yorkers in their home, and for families in the child tax credit so kids could have something to eat. With that credit, we cut child poverty in half. Amazing. And Republicans let it expire. They let it expire. We got through the funding for the infrastructure bill to rebuild after the pandemic with good union jobs and union labor. Because we know that unions build America, build the middle class, provide ladders up. This funding kept New York City from collapsing. It allowed us to begin to rebuild. Now, what did Mr. Zeldin do? He voted against it. He voted against essential workers. He voted against our teachers, our sanitation workers, the people who make this city move. He voted against the city. You know, Lee Zeldin started riding the subway very recently, and I hear him talking about it quite a bit. Guess who voted against the $15 billion that Governor Hochul and I secured so New Yorkers can actually ride the train when they need to get somewhere? Lee Zeldin voted against it. When this city was at its direst need, Lee Zeldin voted the way Donald Trump and special interests told him to vote. Against New York, against tenants, against workers, against families. But Kathy Hochul, she has New York's back. She fought for you. She will keep having our back as governor of the state of New York. How many of you are going to work hard and make sure you vote and make sure your friends vote and your families vote across this state and across this country? Raise your hands. And don't forget, we have great Senate races in states like Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Ohio. And don't forget Florida, and don't forget Arizona, and don't forget Arizona and Nevada. We are going to keep the Senate in Democratic hands. So get out there. Get out there. Work for Kathy. Work for our whole Democratic ticket in New York. Work across the country. On to Victory Tuesday.
Please welcome to the stage Congressmember Carolyn Maloney.
New York women and men, vote for Kathy Hochul, our next governor. I just came from the airport where our Vice President, Kamala Harris, has flown in to speak with you in support of Kathy Hochul. She'll be here in a second. She stopped at Reverend Butts' funeral, but she's on her way. And just recently, we had the President of the United States was here, announcing an agreement with him that Micron Technology is going to spend over $100 billion over the next couple of years building an enormous complex of semiconductors in Syracuse, providing 9,000 jobs, paying high-tech jobs and another 40,000 related jobs. Tell me Kathy Hochul doesn't mean business. She's brought more jobs in with this than any of the Republican predecessors. And today, in 5 days, we're going to have a historically important, and I would say monumentally important choice to make in this election. We must choose between a proven leader and a longtime champion of women's rights, men's rights, the environment, health care, everything, or a man who has voted no on so many things important to New York, including a woman's right to choose. Kathy has made progress on the things that really matter in our state. I'm going to just talk about my district. In my district, we had these plants, these peaker plants that were polluting everyone and causing asthma. She closed 2 of them down and is changing the largest peaker plant, polluting plant
in New York into hydro energy and solar energy to fight climate change for your future. And in infrastructure, in my district alone, she's brought the state funds to build up to 125th Street for the 2nd Avenue subway, making life better for every people. And in December, she's opening up what we call East Side Connector, Madison Connector, bringing the LIRR, over a $10 billion project bringing jobs, improved quality of life. Thank you, Governor Hochul. And she recently announced a new strategy to expand safety on those subways with more cops, cameras, and care, making your trips to Barnard safer and every trip for every New Yorker. These are the kinds of things that matter in people's lives, and she is the one that has done it. I can talk from personal experience. When she first got elected to Congress, she defeated in a Republican, one of the most Republican district in the country. She defeated a Republican. She had no place to stay, so she came and lived with me. So I can tell you from very close observation, she's tough, conscientious, fearless, tireless, collaborative, and wicked smart. In other words, she's the whole package. And fighting crime, combating COVID, strengthening our economy, helping our small businesses, and she's also a deeply devoted mother and wife. And she knows how hard it is for women to divide time between jobs, and she's been a big fighter for our rights her whole life. Now let's look at her opposition. I'm going to call him Mr. No. This is what he's voted against. Mr. No has voted against the Paycheck Fairness Act. The rescue plan for New York that brought billions of dollars to fight COVID, he voted no. The Build Back Better Act, he voted no. The John Lewis Voting Rights Act, he voted no. He not only voted against a woman's right to choose, he voted against the Right to Contraception Act. So when he tells you what he's going to do, look at what he's done. And what he's done is he even voted no to the authorization of the Violence Against Women Act. I don't understand that. So we have a clear choice, someone who can get things done with a proven record and someone who can fight for us. We have 5 days till election time. How many of you are going to be at the subway stops or out telling your friends and neighbors to get out to vote in these last 5 days? You know, we had a great American, Thomas, who said he was a great Nathan. Who was the great, you're a Barnard student, the great revolutionary writer, and Thomas Paine. Yes, I even remembered it, and I didn't even go to Barnard. Let me tell you, you know what Thomas Paine said during the Revolutionary War when our life was really on the line? He had a famous line that came out, and he said, "Don't send me a summertime warrior. Don't send me one who wants sunshine and easy times. Send me a hard-fighting warrior." There is a lot on this line between now and the election. If we don't re-elect her, you saw what Mr. No, Mr. Darkness, is going to bring us. Including this, we didn't even get to student loans, the forgiveness of student loans, and Democratic pride. He voted no on that too. So I don't want to see any summertime warriors. We need revolutionary warriors that are going to get out there and make sure that we carry Kathy Hochul on our back to Albany, because she deserves it. Vote for yourself. Vote for New York. Get out and vote for Kathy Hochul, and bring all your friends.
Please welcome to the stage Attorney General Tish James.
energy of young people. You fill my heart. Listen, we are here today because there's nothing more inspiring, nothing more impactful, nothing more powerful than a room full of young people who are committed to change. And that's why we are here this afternoon. You're committed to moving mountains and making change and changing the course of history here in the state of New York by electing the first woman governor of the state of New York, Kathy Hochul. And while you're at it, re-electing the first woman attorney general. So, I like call and response. I say Kathy, you say Hochul. Kathy. Hochul. Kathy. Hochul. I say Tish, you say James. Tish. James. Tish. James. I say Chuck, you say Schumer. Chuck. Schumer. Chuck. Schumer. He wanted me to say that. Yeah. So listen, you know, this afternoon you've seen some really powerful women, and you're going to see our first nation's Vice President, female Vice President Kamala Harris in a few minutes. Yeah. And of course, the first woman to be elected statewide in New York and the first woman to lead a national ticket on as a presidential nominee, Hillary Rodham Clinton. And of course, New York's first female governor, Kathy Hochul, you know, she took office during a very challenging time, and she's done it with conviction and purpose, but more importantly, with dignity and grace. And of course, you heard from our great Senate Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins. Is Brooklyn in the house? Right there, just right there. You heard from one of the baddest sisters from Brooklyn, the first Latina Puerto Rican United States Congresswoman, La Luchadora Nidia Vasquez. And you heard from the president of the Men Who Get It Club. Yes, there's such a club, and the president is our great majority leader, Chuck Schumer. All of us on this stage tonight can tell you our history-making victories were only possible because of motivated and civic-minded individuals, and all of you who are in this room, women, young people, people of color, and concerned voters, concerned about our democracy, concerned about our future, concerned about the fate of this country, concerned about our state. People who know that the cost of inaction is too high to sit back and let others decide what the future will look like for them or their families. Voters that understood that we all have a stake in this game, and we all must take part in building the community, the state, the country that we all deserve. A country and a state where all of us are part of one human family, where all of us must march arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, where all of us must lift each other up. In this election, my friends, the stakes are too high for all of us, but specifically for women. We cannot sit it out. We cannot stand by the sidelines. The right to make decisions about our bodies, the ability to have basic health care, Social Security for individuals who are aging out, and adequate child care. Yes, we must also, again, defend our democracy, because the pride in knowing that we live in a state that values standing up for our working people and our women is invaluable. All of this, my friends, is on the ballot, but we have a choice. We can let Republicans roll back the rights of women, members of the LGBTQ community, and immigrants, so we can say hell no. What did you say? I can't hear you. Hell no! Thank you. Don't tell your parents I told you how to curse. We can use the power of our voices, the power, my friends, that's in your hand. And all of you right here today can unleash that power by voting, by going to those polls now and on Tuesday, Election Day, and voting like ever before, and bringing your friends and your loved ones and your family members, and let everyone know that we're not going backwards, only forward. Across the country and in New York State, Republicans have been clear about their agenda, advocating for treating legal asylum seekers with no humanity, just to score cheap political points with their base. Giving tax breaks to multi-billion-dollar corporations while doing nothing to help working families struggling to make ends meet. Cutting hard-earned Social Security benefits and even thinking about cutting Medicaid when they become governor. And then, and then letting local politicians decide what's right for a woman's body. They're climate deniers. They're election deniers. They're gun control deniers. Republican and anti-reproductive rights forces were slow and methodical in how they dismantled Roe. They started 50 years ago and they never stopped until they got what they wanted. And while those of us who want to protect choice, we too must be just as methodical. We don't have 50 years to resecure our rights. There are too many lives at stake. We need people on the side of what's right to get into the game. MAGA Republicans have been clear about where they will take us. And now we must be equally clear. That's not the New York, and that's not the America that we want. And the clearest way to make that point is to vote. I know we have quite a few students here today, but let me tell you what they say about you. The mainstream media, political pundits, the campaign consultants, they always try to count you out. They dismiss you. They say that young people don't vote, that you're not involved in politics, that you don't care about your neighbor, that you only care about yourself, that you're only focused on social media. That's it. That's what they say about you. But what I say is they're wrong. Because, my friends, all throughout history, it's always been young people, not politicians. It's always been young people who have moved us forward. Because, you see, it was young people who were marching in the streets and getting their heads bashed in during Selma, Alabama. Individuals, young people, SNCC, marching with Dr. Martin Luther King from Selma to Montgomery for the right to vote. It was young people who said, yes, we can, and elected Barack Obama. It was young people who stood in the way of the tanks in Tiananmen Square in China fighting for democracy. It's young people all across this world standing in the way, demanding democracy and demanding their votes be counted. Young people. It was young people who stood and marched in Parkland, Florida to demand common sense gun control. Not politicians. It wasn't politicians. It was all of you, young people. Young people who are going to turn up this Tuesday and early voting. It's young people who will march into those polls with your friends and your foes and march in quiet dignity to what is happening here in our country. The future, my friends. They will not push us backwards. Because it's up to you, all of you, this is your country, all of you, and you must recognize that you must not allow them to push us backwards. Forward always, backwards never. My trust and belief is in all of you, and I need all of you, not to just attend a rally and make noise, but to go back home. To leave these four walls, knock on doors, tell people to come out and vote, tell them what's at risk, tell them what's at stake, and urge them to come out and vote. I've done my job as the Attorney General these last 3.5 years. And as I said earlier, I will not allow anyone, including the former President of the United States, to bully me. No. Like all of you, I will not bow, I will not break, and I will not be intimidated by anyone. Because I know that all of you have my back. And that all of you will join with me. All of you will join with me and stand up for this country and stand up for what's right and recognize that there's only one system of law and that no one is above the law. So I need you to knock on doors, pass out phone bank on behalf of candidates that support your values. We've gained so much under Democratic leadership. We can't turn back. We won't turn back. We can't be complacent and let the other side win and face regrets of what we could and should have done, because then, my friends, it'll be too late. We must not be paralyzed by fear. We must not be paralyzed by inaction. We must march forward, my friends, and we must stand with myself and the great Governor Kathy Hochul, as we once again prove that if you need a good job done, no. If you need a great job done, then give it to a woman.
Wow, I am so excited to be here with all of you. I want to thank all the Columbia Democrats for hosting. It is so good to be back at Barnard and to be with so many representatives of our government at the local, state, and national level who care about your future and are doing everything they can to make a difference. And I personally am thrilled that we're going to have Vice President Harris with us today. I want to thank all of my wonderful former colleagues and friends who you will be seeing, including Attorney General Tish James, New York Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, New York City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams, my former colleague in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, and of course, Governor Kathy Hochul. Now, you're going to hear from the governor and the vice president. I just want to put what we're doing here today in some context, because this election on Tuesday is one that will have such far-ranging repercussions. And I think you know that. That's why you're here. But I am going to ask you to get out after today's rally and literally get everybody you know to turn out and vote early, vote on Tuesday, because every issue that I can think of that I imagine you could care about is literally on the ballot. You know, I've known Kathy Hochul for a long time. She and I have worked together. I really appreciate the way she's bringing new leadership and stability and new hope for our future to New York. And I think it's about time, since this was the state where the women's suffrage movement was born, that we would have a woman governor. Now, when I think about Kathy, I think about someone who actually legitimately cares about the people of this state and has proven it over her long life in public service. And as lieutenant governor, she crisscrossed New York, literally going to every single county and a lot of the towns and villages and hamlets within them, bringing all kinds of good ideas, bringing people together. But this election, like every election, is a choice. And it's not just a choice between two candidates. It is a choice between two very different ideas about who we are as a state and a country,
how we should work together or not, what kind of future we want for ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren. I think it's fair to say that if you paid attention to this campaign, the Republicans make no secret about what they want to do. They actually say the quiet part out loud. And Lee Zeldin, Kathy's opponent, along with, good response, along with Donald Trump and their allies, are literally fighting tooth and nail to turn back the clock. Think about it. Yes, of course, they want to turn back the clock on abortion. They spent 50 years trying to make that happen. But they want to turn back the clock on women's rights in general, on civil rights, on voting rights, on gay rights. They are determined to exercise control over who we are, how we feel and believe and act in ways that I thought we had long left behind. But they have gone even further. They want to put more guns on our streets, more pollution in our air and our water, more power for the super rich and less for everybody else. That is their vision. And it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who's actually paid attention. And so we have to hold them accountable for that. And one of the ways of doing it is by making sure that Kathy Hochul remains our governor. Now, she's already made a difference. She's already helped to create good-paying jobs. I don't know if any of you are from the Hudson Valley or from the Syracuse area, but working in partnership with the Biden administration, within the last 3 weeks, we've had these huge announcements. $100 billion by Micron outside of Syracuse. $100 billion. $20 billion by IBM in the Hudson Valley. Why? Because the Biden administration and the Democratic Congress passed a law that finally said, we're going to get serious about advanced manufacturing, chips, and everything else that makes the modern economy run. And so Kathy Hochul got on the phone and started calling companies that she knew were on the brink of making big decisions about where to put these advanced manufacturing plants. And she made the case for New York. And it was a case that, you know, she made with passion. She's from New York. She's from the Buffalo area. She gets the fact that upstate New York really began the Industrial Revolution in America, fell on some hard times, and we have a chance to bring it back if we have Kathy Hochul as the governor working to do just that. So, you know, when I think about what the Republicans intend to do, and I pay attention, because I can remember not so long ago I was telling people they're going to stack the Supreme Court and they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade, and I have faint memories of people saying, oh, that's so exaggerated. So let me tell you, they're going to cut Social Security and Medicare in order to give more tax cuts to the wealthy. That is the plan. And if you don't think it will happen, just listen to them. And if you are still on Twitter, I am, if you still are, there is some great video of the Republican senator from Utah, Mike Lee, saying out loud that he wants to pull Social Security and Medicare up by the roots and get rid of them. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't imagine that that's a popular opinion if people actually hear it. So make sure everybody you know hears it for the next couple of days. And, you know, we have to look at all of the important matters that are at stake. And I have to also just reflect that I've seen, I'm sure you have, well, maybe you don't watch television, but if you did, you would see what I see, which are ads about crime every 30 seconds, right? No solutions, but just a lot of really fearful, scary pictures and scary music. And of course, I want everybody to be safe. Honestly, who's against that? But then a terrible crime happens in San Francisco. An intruder hits an 82-year-old man in the head with a hammer who happens to be married to the Speaker of the House, and the Republicans joke about it. The woman running for governor in Arizona jokes about it. Now, why would any sensible person want to give power to somebody who thinks it's funny that a person gets assaulted in his own home? So, you know, they don't care about keeping you safe. They want to keep you scared so that you can't think straight and you end up voting against your interests. So, just look at Lee Zeldin's record. He voted against equal pay for women, against renewing the Violence Against Women Act, against access to abortion and even birth control, against raising the minimum wage, and funding Medicare. So I don't know why any sensible person who cares about the economy, who cares about the cost of living, who cares about, you know, how to get ahead, would vote for someone who votes against them and their families. But we have to make sure that every voter knows what's at stake. And the only way we can get the kind of future we want is to elect Democrats who care about democracy, who care about protecting our rights and our values, who respect our institutions and the rule of law. And one of those is our current governor, who I believe should be our next governor. So please join me in welcoming Governor Kathy Hochul.
Thank you. I am so on fire. I have been waiting for this opportunity to come here and to count down the days until we make history once again. And I'm so proud to have been introduced by someone who made history in her lifetime herself. Our secretary, our former First Lady, our senator, our friend, Hillary Clinton. What a win. She has been a source of inspiration for me for decades, because I've learned from her when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And there's nobody tougher than our very own Hillary Clinton. I thank her for being here to remind us of the power of the vote. I also want to thank the speakers who came before. Thanks to this college for welcoming us, Barnard College, and to all the students, everybody. You heard from our extraordinary Attorney General. She is a fighter. You do not want to get in the way of Letitia James. She is a fighter. You heard from our Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, who's been delivering for us, bringing back the money from Washington right here in New York State so we can spend it to lift up all of our citizens. Let's give a round of applause. You also heard from my friends in Congress. You heard from Nydia Velázquez, a true leader who's a real fighter. I've worked with her for many, many years. And someone, you may not know this, but Carolyn Maloney, when I was running for Congress a decade ago, when no one thought I could possibly win in the most Republican district in the state of New York, they said, no way, no how, won't happen, and a lot of people walked away from me. Carolyn Maloney used to call me every single day and leave a voicemail. If I didn't answer, she'd say, Kathy, you're a winner, and then she'd hang up. Kathy, you're a winner, then she'd hang up. Kathy, you're a winner. And then when I went to Congress, because no one thought I'd win, I didn't even have a place to stay. I literally shared the bedroom next to her. We shared a bathroom for 6 weeks because she's that close to me, and I want to thank her for her extraordinary leadership in our House of Carolyn Maloney. And my supporters and friends in Albany, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, no longer. And with all love and respect to our Speaker, Carl Heastie, now there's no longer 3 men in the room. There are 2 women and a really good guy in the room. So to all of you, I have a simple message. To all of you, but particularly to the women of New York. Women of New York. This is our moment. This is when we think of the ghosts of the past. The women who gathered in 1848 in a place called Seneca Falls. And I've often wondered how, without the benefit of social media, how they all knew to gather in one place. 300 people found their way to a place that became the intersection of rights. Native American rights, abolitionists, women's rights. It all came together in this small community in upstate New York. And if you've not been there, you need to go there. You need to go there. But I think about it often, and we were there recently, Hillary Clinton and I, talking about the legacy we've inherited. What is on our shoulders as the women of today. Because those women back then were so brave and so audacious. They went against the tides of their time. They were ridiculed and spit upon and jailed because they had the audacity to say, we have rights, and we have a right to fight for them. And if you read the Declaration of Sentiments, it's written on the wall, and you can feel their disdain dripping with every word, saying, we are sick and tired of being the properties of men. We want to have the chance to be free. We want to vote. And that happened nowhere else but right here in the state of New York. Right here in New York. And it was a long journey for that right to vote. Many, many decades. But New York was one of the first, 3 years ahead of the rest of the nation, to say that women would have the right to vote in this state. And again, later, finally, women of all colors could vote as well. It took till 1964. We finally achieved that goal that was so elusive for so long. And when it came to other rights, reproductive freedom, the right to decide whether you can make a decision about your own body, New York again was 3 years ahead of the rest of the nation. It took till Roe v. Wade. We were already 3 years ahead. And I've always been proud of the fact that we've led these movements, women's rights, LGBTQ rights, labor rights, environment. It all started in nowhere else but our state. So I put that on all of you, especially the young people. I want you to feel the weight on your shoulders as you march out of here with that determination, the guts and courage that all of those who came before us had and passed down this gift to us. In fact, they've not only passed down a gift, they've passed us the torch. And today we hold that torch in our hands. And it's up to us. And we'll be judged by generations years from now. They'll look back at this time and say, what happened in 2022? For some, it'll be a reminder that the rights that were so long and hard fought for could be stripped away by a Supreme Court, appointed by a president who never should have been there. That's what happens. That's what happens. That's what happens when complacency takes hold and people feel like, I don't need to vote because somebody else will do it, it doesn't matter. That's what happens when complacency sets in. You have rights that you counted on for over 50 years. My mother fought this battle. Reproductive freedom. I enjoyed the benefits of it. It was always there if I needed it. My daughter in her 30s, assuming it would be there for her, and my brand new grandbaby will not have the same rights that her great-grandma had. We've always been on the forward path toward progress. That's what defines us as a state. So, friends, it's up to us. how will we be judged by what we do in 2022? We march to the polls. We say we honor those women of the past, those fighters, and those who shed blood to secure the right to vote. But also we will stand up for future generations and say, we will protect the right to an abortion in this state right here, right now, and forever. But don't take it for granted, because I've heard my opponents say, oh, don't worry. The day after the Dobbs decision, nothing changed in the state of New York, so don't worry. You know why nothing changed in the state of New York? Because I'm the governor. That's why nothing changed. That's why nothing changed. I'm the governor. That's right. So you want to protect that right. You want to continue having gun safety laws on the books and don't agree that every teacher should be armed and we should have people with guns on the subways. You believe that we should have common sense laws to protect our citizens from being killed in our streets. If you believe that, if you believe that we should continue investing in our people, investing in education, your education, making sure that you have this shot at the New York dream that we cherish, then you need to make sure that I'm still the governor on Wednesday. You have the power. You have the power. You have the weight on your shoulders. You have it in your DNA to continue that fight, that march forward. And don't you dare let future generations down, because they're looking to you. Just like we stand on the shoulders of people like Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, who both made history being the first, our first female vice president of the United States. You have witnessed history, my friends, but don't just watch it. Go out forth and make history yourselves. Make history yourselves. And people have pointed the fact, and so many moms and dads come up to me with their little daughters, and they want me to bend down and talk to them. And I've heard so many say this, and it touches my soul. Look, daughter, the first woman governor of the state of New York, you can be anything now. You can be anything. And I won't let them down. I want all those little girls to know that, yes, they can be anything. And yes, a woman has what it takes to govern a rough and tumble place like the state of New York, because I'm a fighter. I'm a fighter. I say bring it on. I love a good fight. Bring it on. Bring it on. I'll take it down. I'll take anybody down. I love a good fight. You know why I'm a fighter? Because my dad and my grandpa made steel. Okay? I have steel running through my veins because of who I am and where I come from. I come from Buffalo, New York. I am a fighter. So, I leave you with this. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to take it to the streets? Are you ready to get out people to vote? Are you ready to save the state of New York? I'm counting on you. And with that, let me welcome a woman who has such compassion. A woman who I have long admired, because she has been out there true. She's had to fight her way to the top. She has made history, but she's got a heart of gold. I've seen her in action. And let me tell you one story about our vice president, Kamala Harris. She came to Buffalo after the massacre of 10 of my neighbors. A white supremacist radicalized on social media decided that he would take arms because at the time you could be 18 years old on your birthday and walk in the store and buy an AR-15. He went to Buffalo because he was looking for the place with the highest concentration of people of color from his home. and he slaughtered my neighbors 10 minutes from where I live. And Vice President Harris came, and she met with the families. She went to the funeral, and she didn't even ask to speak. They wanted to just be there out of respect. And she was called up to speak, and she gave the most heartwarming, uplifting remarks about how you take that pain and you turn it into action. And I listened to her, and I went back to Albany. I said, we must have action for these people. We must have action for this community. We must have action for New Yorkers. And what we did was he changed the laws. We stood up and we said, no more can this happen in a state like New York. And we took away the ability for an 18-year-old to buy that weapon. We said we're going to enhance our state. We changed the laws, and we want to keep those laws in place. And I thank Vice President Harris for not just making history, but for really making a difference. Ladies and gentlemen,
Hey, New York, we gonna get this done. We're gonna get this done. 5 days. 5 days. We're gonna get this done? Yes. We're gonna give it everything we've got. No sleep. Okay, I'm gonna hold you to that. It's good to be with all these leaders. It is so good to be with all these leaders. Listen, let's just get right down to business, because we do have 5 days. And sometimes 5 days can seem like a lot of time, but in this case, we don't have a lot of time to do something very big, which is to elect Kathy Hochul, the next and continuing governor of the state of New York. 5 days. 5 days. And Secretary Clinton said it. Tish James said it. The governor herself said it. Everything is on the line. And the thing about Kathy Hochul is she has shown you who she is. She has shown you what she cares about. She has shown you how hard she will work for the people of New York. And I believe that when you know what you stand for, you know what to fight for. So we got a lot of work to do. And as the governor said, you've witnessed a lot of history on this stage this afternoon. Oh, a whole lot of firsts. But here's the thing I know about Secretary Clinton. I know about General James. I know about Governor Hochul. We are committed. Yes, we may be the first, but we are committed to not being the last. And we're going to count on you to help us see that through. 5 days. 5 days. So we need folks to vote, right? For folks who haven't voted, we need them to vote. We need them to vote early, and we need them to vote on Election Day. And I can look around this room, and I know this is a group of leaders, most of whom have been out there already talking with people about the importance of voting, people who worked on the 2020 election and elected Joe Biden president and me vice president. And so here's the thing we all know, because a lot of us have been doing this every election cycle, asking folks to vote. And here's what happens. So we go up and we ask somebody to vote. And they will then ask a very righteous question every time. Why should I vote? Well, here's the thing. We got a whole lot of good material. We got a lot of good material, because think about it. Last election, 2020, in the height of a pandemic, so much loss of life. People lost their jobs, loss of normalcy. Parents who are trying to figure out how they could educate their kids in the middle of all this, trying to go online if they even had access to high-speed internet. And in the midst of all of that, think about it. We had an historic turnout, and in particular, a historic turnout of young voters voting. You all.
historic. And the way I see it is when people went in 2020 to vote, they were essentially putting in their order, right? They stood in line for hours. In the midst of all of these burdens, for so many of you, if you were in school at that time, what those days meant, trying to learn from home, learn from your dorm room, wherever you were, you wanted to see people, you wanted to be with it. And in the midst of all of that, people took the time to vote, stood in line for hours to vote. And this is what they said. They said, there are certain things that I want from my government and certain things that I know I'm entitled to. And so when we go to ask them to vote this time in 5 days and over the next 5 days, we're going to first of all say thank you for doing what you did last time. And then we're going to remind them. So you put in your order, and here's what your vote did. You said it is time that America deals with the issue of child poverty. And because you voted, we extended the child tax credit, which reduced poverty for children in America by over 40% in the first year. Because you voted. You said, help parents out, people who are parenting children, because it's expensive. So you put in your order and said, do something about that. And because you voted, we passed a tax cut so that people parenting children get up to $8,000 more in their pocket to help them with the cost of food and medicine and school supplies for their children, because they voted. Because people voted and said, look, I'm going to put in my order. I want y'all to deal with this climate crisis because we value the importance of drinking clean water and breathing clean air and saving this beautiful planet upon which we live. And so people put in their order, and because you voted, we just put $370 billion into an investment in what we must do to combat the effects of this climate crisis. Because you voted. Because you voted. We're going to go up to people and we're going to ask them, and they're going to say, well, why should I vote? And we're going to say, because the last time you said, you know what, y'all need to deal with the potholes and deal with the fact that America's infrastructure is about 150 years old, and we need to fix these bridges and we need to fix these roads. And because they voted, LaGuardia is now going to get $30 million for upgrades. Because they voted, we're going to have electric MTA buses and put $110 million into doing it. Because they voted, Second Avenue Subway is going to get $400 million. Because they put in their order. Because you voted. And you said, you know what? It's about time we had a black woman on the United States Supreme Court. And because you voted, her name is Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Because you voted. Because you voted and said, we're putting in our order. Student loan debt is preventing folks from being able to start a family, buy a home, or even pay rent. And because you voted, in spite of all of the criticism, we are canceling debt of up to $20,000 of student loan debt because people voted. Because people voted and said, it's been 30 years since there's been any meaningful smart gun legislation in our country. And it's about time that people have some courage to pass or do smart and safe gun legislation, that we were able to expand background checks, the most meaningful gun legislation in 30 years, because people voted and put in their order. People said, you know, you guys did a great job in 2008 and during those years reforming the healthcare system, but it's still really expensive to buy medication. And so people took the time and stood in line for hours to vote and said, can you do something about that? They said, you know, I got a lot of relatives who have diabetes. Black people in America are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. Latinos, 70% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. Why do I know seniors who have diabetes who have to make a decision about whether they're going to fill a prescription that a doctor ordered because it will save their life versus being able to buy food or pay their rent? And because you voted, we have now capped insulin at $35 a month for those seniors. Because you voted. Because you voted and you said, you know what? This game that the pharmaceutical companies have been playing, jacking up prices on medication, is just not right. Somebody's got to be able to negotiate on behalf of the American people on this issue. And so, long time in coming, but because you voted, we are now allowing Medicare to negotiate against the pharmaceutical companies on behalf of 60 million Americans. 60 million people. Because you voted. Elections matter. Elections matter. And we have so much at stake in this one. Just think about this. The United States Supreme Court, the highest court in our land, just took a constitutional right that had been recognized from the people of America. And by the way, on this subject, I think it's important to note, one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree the government should not be telling her and anyone what to do with their own body. But now, with the Dobbs decision, we are seeing states around our country pass or propose laws that will criminalize doctors and nurses and healthcare providers. Literally are providing for jail time for healthcare providers. Proposing and passing laws for which there is no exception for rape or incest. When I was a courtroom prosecutor, I specialized in crimes against women and children, and in particular child sexual assault. Let me tell you guys, the idea that anyone who proposes or professes to be a leader would suggest that there would be no exception after an individual has endured and survived an act of violence and violation, and then suggest to them they will not have the autonomy after that violation of their body to make a decision about what next happens to their body. It is immoral. Immoral. It is unconscionable. Here's the other thing about that decision. So the proponents said, well, you know, let's just let the states decide. Right? Let's just let the states decide. Okay, well, those same people are some of the same people who in the states are intentionally making it more difficult for people to vote. And because it has now been pushed to the states, your governor, who has stood strong and firm her entire career, her position on this issue becomes even more important. Because listen, guys, if this happens as these Republicans are trying to push, so many of their leaders, they have said there will be a national ban on abortion. And we're going to need people in the State House and at a local level who have the courage to stand up and push back against what is happening in our country. And then that way, who is your governor matters. Who is your attorney general matters. Who is your lieutenant governor matters. Because they will be the last line of defense with what we're seeing happen around our country. Elections matter. And what we are also seeing is that if you look at, I like Venn diagrams, okay? So if you look, I do. And if you look at the intersection on some of these issues, it's pretty profound and very clear. And by the way, Clarence Thomas said the quiet part out loud. Now, at risk, an individual's right to contraception. An individual's right to marry the person they love is now at risk. And if you look at where these attacks are coming from, you would not be surprised to know there is a significant intersection between those who are attacking voting rights, LGBTQ plus rights, and reproductive rights. See what's happening around our country and understand why elections matter, because again, who is all in these state houses, who are holding these offices, will be potentially the last line of defense. Elections matter. As vice president, I have now, well, thank you. That's me. So, as vice president in these almost 2 years, my team has told me I have now met with over 100 world leaders, directly or so directly or by phone, presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings. And here's the thing that you all know, and Secretary Clinton certainly knows. When we walk into these rooms representing the United States of America, we have traditionally walked into these rooms chin up, shoulders back, talking about the importance of democracy, representing what we hold out to be the greatest democracy in the world, imperfect though it may be. But it gives us the authority then in these rooms to talk about the importance of rule of law, the importance of human rights, of free press. And in that way, we have been held out as a model. But here's the thing everyone here knows, because you are all role models. The thing about being a role model is this. People watch what you do to see if it matches what you say. So there are my greatest fear. Dictators and autocrats around the world who will dare to tell their people, you want to hold out the United States as an example of these issues? will look at what they're doing. And in that way, what is happening in our country will very likely not only affect the people of our nation, but potentially people around the world. All of this is at stake. And on the issue then of democracies, I do believe that the nature of democracy is that there's a duality. On the one hand, when a democracy is intact, I believe it is incredibly strong in that it gives strength to its people. It is a protector and a defender of individual rights and freedoms and justice. When it is intact, there's an incredible strength in its ability to lift people up. On the other hand, it's very fragile. It is only as strong as our willingness to fight for it. And so fight we will. And so fight we will. And so we will do everything in these next 5 days, standing for the country we love, standing for the principles we hold dear. We will stand for the voices that we know have everything on the line, and we will fight for the principles that we know we hold dear, the ideals we hold dear. You know, I do believe there are two definitions of what it means to be a patriot. One is the definition that suggests you'll defend your country whatever it does, but then there is the other definition, which I believe describes all of us patriots, which is the willingness, born out of love of country, to fight for the ideals and the attainment of the ideals of our nation. That is what is at stake. And so we will fight. And when we fight, we win. Thank you.